Hello and welcome to this Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching Morning Trade with me, Nandita Khemka. Well, over the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking about the trade setup, the stocks that will be making headlines in today's session, and of course, we'll also be answering all your stock-related queries and getting them addressed by our technical expert on this show. So keep commenting on our live feed, and we will have them addressed by our technical guest for today. But before we do all that, let's take a look at what the headlines are looking like this morning. Well, US stocks slump as stronger than expected producer prices and hawkish commentary from Fed officials stoke rate hike concerns. The dollar gains ground after yet another hotter than expected inflation print. Treasury yields too tick higher. Asian markets open mixed, tracking cues from Wall Street. The SGX Nifty is indicating a negative start for the Indian markets. In the spotlight today, what should you do with defense stocks after the stellar run in yesterday's trade? Also in focus are Vedanta, AngelOne and Hero Moto. Well, let's now get on board our guest for today. We're joined by Amit Kumar Gupta of Fintrekk Capital to discuss the key triggers for the rally in defense stocks yesterday. Good morning, Amit. Good to have you on the show. We had the likes of Bharat Dynamics and HAL clock in extremely strong gains in yesterday's session. In fact, all thanks to the MOUs that have been inked in the Aero show, Aero India. How is it going to impact the revenue visibility of these companies going forward?
Hi, Nandita. Thank you for having me. Good morning. So I think in the recent Aero India show, which is happening in Bangalore, there have been more than 250 MOUs signed, which could potentially unlock business for about 80,000 crores, even more. Now, I understand that a lot of these MOUs may not get converted into orders, but I think that is a very big push for the Make in India defense sector. Three of the companies, HAL, BEL, and Bharat Forge, have actually signed a lot of orders for the exports. They have signed MOUs with the big OEMs outside India. That is very positive. So even if let's say 20-25% of these MOUs get converted into actual order books, then we are looking at about 15 to 20,000 crores of orders coming in the next few months. So I think that's a real positive out of it.
Right. Bharat Dynamics saw a big rally in yesterday's session. In fact, stock was up 10%, as I had mentioned. 10 MOUs inked with domestic and global companies. From a valuation standpoint, how would you see this stock now? Price to earnings ratio is a little lesser compared to the price to earnings ratio of the entire sector, so to say. How do you think it's more attractive compared to its peers now?
No, I think valuation-wise, BEL is still at a sort of a lower end, but other stocks like HAL and even Bharat Forge, because we have to also understand that something like a Bharat Forge does not just do defense; they do all other businesses as well in CV space. So we have these in our list, but I think at this juncture the valuations are fairly high. And there could be some corrections and investors should look to buy into those dips. But we are very positively inclined on the sectors, but we would like to sort of spread it out, the buying over the next few weeks rather than buying it as a lump sums. But these are definitely the positions to be considered on correction.
Right, consider on correction. So that's the call. Now, Amit, in the budget, the government has budgeted an increase of 33% for capex, but the defense sector only gets somewhere around 7% for defense capex, right? So this came as a big disappointment for stocks, as we saw a correction after the budget, right? How much of a disappointment was the amount that was earmarked for the defense sector on the whole?
So you're right. The outlay for the defense sector in FY24 was about 4.3 lakh crores, which was about an increase of just about 5.5% from the last budget. But we also need to understand that the last budget actually came at a very high base. The FY23 budget was 5.25 lakh crores, which was almost 13% of the total budget. So there was already a very high allocation to defense in the last budget. So the increase is a little less as compared, but we also need to see that the government has made it very clear that the export opportunity is going to be very high, which is not factored in actually in the budget. So they are talking about 3x export opportunity by 2025 to make it $5 billion. So I think the real opportunity would get into the stocks or the companies where the export opportunity is there. So whether it is Bharat Forge or even M&M and Tata Motors, these can be looked at, from that perspective. So I'm not very perturbed by the increase in the defense budget by only 5.5%. I'm more looking at the opportunities where export companies can capture the export opportunity.
Well, since you spoke about export opportunity, do you think any of these companies have the potential to become the, Lockheed Martin or Rafael of the world?
So I think one need to see how these technologies are developed, because the M&M and the Tata Motors, they are very nascent into it, and then we have the experienced people like the HAL and the BELs into it. So I think it's very early because we are in a cycle of about 4 to 5 years, and it's a little early to see how much the export opportunity is captured by these. But the capability is there. The orders book is coming now in, and with these latest MOUs, they will also have the technical know-how of how to do exports better and how to make money out of it. If you look at some of the MOUs which are signed in this aerospace, there is a lot of interest which is shown by the foreign original equipment manufacturers, the foreign OEMs, and their partnership is basically to develop it much more cheaper, develop it in India and going it abroad. So whether it is Israel Aerospace or Paramount in the US, all these agreements show that there is a lot of interest into it. But we have to also see, the valuations, how much of it is priced in. Once we get an idea of, how much the export opportunity can be captured by these companies, then I think, there is a scope of further re-rating into these stocks.
Well, scope for re-rating some of these companies. But my last question to you is, what should one do with these stocks with a near-term perspective? I understand from a long-term perspective, all these stocks are looking pretty attractive. But if somebody wants to take a near-term to medium-term view on this stock, what should one do? Should one buy into this?
I think the buying has to be selective because a lot of these stocks have run up, especially in the last week. They actually dipped last month and around the budget also they dipped, which was a great buying opportunity. We actually recommended a few of these stocks into our client base. So I think I'm looking for a buy or dip kind of a opportunity and not really at the current price. If somebody has a trader mindset and trading, then probably it makes sense to book out a little bit, because after the huge rally there is going to be sometimes some sort of a time and price correction. But if you are a long-term investor, then you should probably hold it on and even try and add on any dips which might come into the market because of external reasons, because of market conditions.
Well, that's the call on defense stocks then. Well, on that note, thanks a lot, Amit, for taking out time and joining us this morning.
Thank you, Nandita.
Thank you. Well, on that note, let's bring on board our technical analyst for today. We're joined by Raja Venkatraman of NeoTrader. Good morning, Raja. Good to have you on the show. Well, we managed to shut shop above that 18,000 level for the second day on the trot, but we did in fact, we did come off day's high yesterday and ended near day's low. And this morning as well, SGX Nifty, in fact, the global cues are also not looking very supportive. Do you expect the Nifty to consolidate around that 18,000 level today?
Yeah, good morning, Nandita. So, yes, like you rightly mentioned, yes, we saw the Nifty and Bank Nifty wake up. But the only problem continues to remain is that at higher levels, there are some supplies which are emerging. So I continue to believe that around 18,200 to 18,300 would be a very strong resistance area. So that would continue to offer some supply on the Nifty. And in Bank Nifty, it would be around 42,000. Now, if you do a comparison between Nifty and Bank Nifty appears to be much more on the weaker side, because if you see, despite the Nifty showing some good traction to the upside, we did not see much participation from Bank Nifty. And one of the primary reasons have been that not much support have been received from the private banks. And yes, PSU banks are trying their bit, but they are not able to rev up that sentiment. So overall, also looking at the kind of option data which is getting set up, you can see that around 42,000 levels, there are quite a lot of pressure, call writing being bunched up. So I don't see Bank Nifty crossing 42,000. So any rally towards 42,000 will continue to remain a supply point. And in Nifty, it will be around 18,200. Having said that, now the next question will be whether are we expecting a bearish scenario? The answer is no, because we'll continue to maintain that till 17,700 is really breached and you get an end of day closing on Nifty, we would continue to remain buoyant on the upside. Now that is the level on the Nifty, and on the Bank Nifty, I would track 41,000 very closely. Until 41,000 is given away, we should not look at a bearish scenario in Bank Nifty on a multi-day basis. Well, on an intraday basis, it will continue to remain a buy on dip, sell on rally opportunity, because the overall market is still in a confused mode. However, stock specific action continues to dominate. You're seeing surprise action emerging from result based stocks. Results which are not in alignment with the estimates are surprising you by moving up. Results which have done well, they are not performing. So all kinds of reactions are being seen now by the market. So one needs to tread with caution, because at the current juncture, there is absolutely no clarity.
Well, trade with caution, as there is no clarity as to which direction the markets would actually take. Let's also talk about some specific stocks now. AngelOne would be in focus. CEO has resigned due to personal reasons. In fact, we also have a query on this stock from Jaga Jagdish, and he wants to know your thoughts on this one. If you look at the stock, it's shaved off somewhere around 12% in the last 1 month or thereabouts. Do you expect more weakness now that some bit of news has come in on this counter?
Yeah, the overall this stock definitely tried to move up from the support levels. But what's happening is the stock is in a continuous phase of supply. And I feel that this supply could continue further. And yes, it's trying to test its lower levels around 1100 zone. But then if 1100 levels are really given away, then it could trade much lower. So if you are an already an existing holder, your stop loss could be around 1100. But if you're looking to buy this counter at the current juncture, then it would be an avoid from my side.
Well, if you want to buy into AngelOne, it's an avoid for now. Moving on to the next counter, next stock on my list is Vedanta. It has emerged as a preferred bidder for mineral blocks in Chhattisgarh, and it has submitted a highest final price offer of 4.15%. Now, the stock has been fairly okay this week. Over the last 5 sessions, it has gained somewhere around 2%. Would you advise investors to buy into this one?
Yeah, if you observe the trajectory of the stock over the last 6 months, it has practically moved nowhere. It tried to go above an important value resistance area around 340 levels, but it has not been able to successfully move above that. So I would request everyone to hold on and wait till you see a move above 340, wherein you should really be buying in. Otherwise, you will always have a supply emerging at that point. So 340 is an important level to track in Vedanta. If it moves beyond that, then it would be a very good investment opportunity.
Right, 340 is the level to watch out for on Vedanta. The next query is coming in from Prabhu, and he has a query on Adani Group of stocks. Well, of course, we know that this group of stocks has been extremely volatile in the face of the news flow that we've seen since end of January. But Prabhu wants to know whether it's the right time to average stocks like Adani Green, Adani Power and Adani Port. What would you advise him to do?
Yeah, the entire Adani Group, the kind of volatility and the movement which we have seen, it is something which we had unexpected. But now having the unexpected displayed before us, what really is moving out now is something which are basically a reaction which is happening to certain news flows which are emerging. Now, as a participant with limited capital, there are many opportunities which are available in the Adani non-Adani group. So I would keep away from this particular set of stocks unless you are an aggressive market participant. You could use these movements in these stocks from a trading perspective and not from investing on a multi-day basis.
Right. Raja, I also want to get in your thoughts on the aviation pack. We saw Indigo slump on the back of that block deal, but SpiceJet clocked an 11% rally in yesterday's session. Raja Pasala has a query on SpiceJet. He wants to know, like, what should you do after this kind of up move on a stock like SpiceJet, and of course after the kind of move that we saw on Indigo, what are the levels that we should be watching out for on that one?
Yeah, so currently the aviation stocks are showing some brief blips of an upside. Otherwise, largely the trend has been to the way down. So I would not be a buyer in these aviation stocks because I do not see any kind of investment outlay, and I largely treat this more on a trading basis. Because overall, if you see the way they have performed, you have never been able to get some steady upward move in any of these counters. So both of them are an avoid from my side, Indigo as well as SpiceJet.
So avoid Indigo and SpiceJet at the current juncture. The next query is coming in on Varun Beverages. Neeraj Garg has written in and he wants to know your thoughts on this one. Over the last 6 months, this stock has gained somewhere around 20% or thereabouts, but in the last 5 days hasn't really done much. What is your outlook on this stock?
Varun Beverages, yes, the overall movement has been good and the sector itself has performed quite well. But then what we are seeing right now is there is some profit booking which is emerging, and we should wait for the prices to hold on to these levels and then take a move up, and above 1350 is when I will look to participate. Otherwise, we could experience some more profit booking which could drag the prices lower.
Right. The next query is coming in on CG Power. Now, we recently had news flow on the counter that MSCI had included this stock in its India index. So, Bikram Murmu has written in and he wants to know your thoughts on this counter. How is it looking on the charts now?
Yes, CG Power has been in a steady uptrend. It has been able to withstand the constant gyrations which the market has offered. And using every dip, the price have actually moved higher. But now, if you want to freshly invest into this particular counter, you should be aware that your risk is much more to the downside. So even if there is a decline towards 280, 290 region, it would still be a good opportunity. So if you're having the requisite capital, you could buy some here and buy at current levels around 280, 290 and place a stop loss below 270 because the upside is looking to in the region of around 600 in the next 1 year.
Well, so those are the levels to watch out for on CG Power. The next query is coming in on JK Tyre. Shikhar Gupta has written in and he bought these shares at a price of 206. He wants to know whether he should average or sell at this juncture. What would you advise him to do?
So the way the price trajectory has been moving over the last 6 months, it has not been very encouraging. You saw a brief move to the upside in the month of November, December, but suppose that the entire stock is only headed down. Now it is at a very important juncture of around 150 levels. So if you get an end of day closing below 150, one should exit the stock. Yes, it would be below your entry price, but still it would be much better because from here on, it could go all the way towards 100.
Right. Next query is coming in on Reliance Industries. Harry Singh has written in and he wants to know whether Reliance will gain momentum again in the short term or dip further from current levels. Now, we know that at least in the previous day's session, like day before yesterday, it was a big contributor towards the gains on the index. And in this week itself, it has rallied somewhere around 4% or thereabouts. So do you expect this kind of an uptrend to continue today and into next week?
Yeah, Reliance continues to be one of the favorite attraction of many market participants. But I personally believe that Reliance is a very sluggish stock And if you have the capital to lock it for a sufficiently large period of time, you should not be investing into Reliance anymore.
Right. You should not be investing into Reliance anymore. That's the call. The next query is coming in from Saurabh Gupta, and he wants to know your views on Ambuja Cement, whether it can give good returns in the short term. What would you advise him to do?
Yeah, see, all of us are aware of the kind of tailwind which is causing the problem to Ambuja Cement. So unless the dust settles there on Ambuja Cement, I would continue to stay away from Ambuja Cement. Yes, the query is in the right direction. It has got potential, but we would want the dust to settle down before we again look at this counter.
Right, wait for the dust to settle down before looking at Ambuja Cement. So next query is coming in on RBL Bank. Mohit Chabria has written in and he wants to know your thoughts on this counter. Yesterday's session, it was down somewhere around 1% or thereabouts. Do you expect it to continue the downtrend in today's session as well?
RBL Bank has found some good supports around 145 level. So unless 145 level is really given away, you should continue to look at the stock holding on to its current zone. Yes, there is an intermediate support which it has found yesterday, which is around 160 level. So there are two sets of supports. One is 160 and the next drop is towards 145. So if you are a trader, then any move below 160 could see it move towards 145. And if you are an investor, you could definitely look at 145 as a good buying point.
On to the next query then. This one is coming in on Hero Moto. Arindam Bhakat has written and he wants to know your thoughts on this one. Now the stock turns ex-dividend today and wasn't doing much in yesterday's session. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, yes, there are some corporate actions which are emerging and the price has reached a very good price point of around 2500. So I don't see the stock going below 2500 because there are strong sets of supports out there. We are on the last day of the week and the stock has been in a decline over the last 2 weeks. So what I envisage is once the corporate action is done and the supports also begin acting up, it could be a very good price point to turn contrary and in fact take a long bet in Hero Moto.
Well, take a long bet on Hero Moto as the price point is attractive. We also have a query on SBI. We just spoke about RBL Bank, but talking about the big one, SBI, Trilok has a query on this stock and he wants to know the short-term view on this one. Now, we all know that SBI was in the news because of its exposure to Adani. However, there have been clarifications on that front as well. So now going forward, how does this stock look on the charts?
The stock will continue to range. There has been news flows of exposure to Adani and since there is no clarity on the Adani Group itself, this stock will also continue to linger around the same news flow. So I would not be a multi-day player in SBI, but I will definitely be a intraday player.
Right. I also want to get in your thoughts on the IT index, Raja. It has really bounced back remarkably after being an underperformer last year. And we have the likes of TCS hitting a 9-month high. Tech Mahindra perched at a 6-month high. It saw a solid rally in yesterday's session. Even some of these mid-cap names have, seen a stellar run over the last few months, so to say. What would your thoughts be on these counters now? Are they turning very expensive to look at buying at the current levels?
Yeah, see, from the way the markets are poised right now, many of the IT stocks were badly beaten. It took a while for the IT index to come out of its depression, but then what we have seen is almost it is going to exceed it has exceeded the 9-month consolidation zone. So which is a very good sign because that is what is keeping the index alive. If you actually go ahead and take a look at the kind of sectors which are at play. And now, if anyone wants to take a hedge position in against their short trade, then IT would be that sector. So any dip in all the moving stocks would continue to offer a good opportunity to buy into. So if any trader out there, if any investor out there, they can look at IT stocks for a long play.
Well, look at IT stocks for long-term play. Very quickly, last query coming in from Ravi Teja R. He wants to know your views on Himadri Specialty. The stock was fairly buoyant in yesterday's session. What is the long-term outlook on this stock?
Himadri Special is a counter which is not moving so much. So I would advise that instead of looking into such counter, you could focus your attention on some other counters because this stock does not show much of traction to the upside.
Right. This wraps up our query segment. But very quickly, Raja, what would you advise? What would you have on your radar for as stock picks for our investors today?
Yeah, so I would continue to advise them on initiating longs because the overall market has not given up yet. And that's the reason why I have taken a stock which has come into a pullback, which is Apollo Tyre. So I would continue to buy Apollo Tyre at current juncture, place a stop loss below 327 for a target towards 345, 349. You could treat it as an intraday trade or as a multi-day trade. It's got good potential there. And you could check out Voltas above 865 with a stop loss below 853 for an upside towards 880 and 889.
So Voltas and Apollo Tyres are the stock recommendations from Raja for this morning. Well, on that note, Raja, thanks a lot for taking out time and joining us this morning. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Well, with that's a wrap on this edition of Morning Trade, but don't go anywhere because coming up next is Opening Bell.